Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Here.
Councilmember Patassi.
Here.
Councilmember Kettering.
Here.
And Mayor Barrios.
Lord, we're grateful for our community of Oakdale. We're grateful for the people that lead us. And even tonight, we're grateful for Brian and the time he served here. I know he's moving on to some new challenges, but I just know personally and for this city, we're thankful for his service here. So thank you for people all around here, our councilmen and women and our mayor and those that serve in so many capacities here. I just think we're truly blessed of such a loving community that wants to serve and do great things. So thank you for that. Thank you for that environment, even with the coaches. Investing in these young ladies, again, I'm always humbled by the amount of people that serve in this community. And so thank you for Oakdale. We would pray and ask for your blessing, your hand of guidance, wisdom, discernment for those leaders and positions that guide our community. Protect our citizens and give us discernment, direction, and how we move forward and what's best for this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Cool. So my name is Frank Coelho. I'm the head coach of the 2016 OSC girls team. We are here today because our girls won a state cup last season. It was a long road, about a 3-month journey, 128 teams that filtered through and ended up winning 4 trophies, and we were one of the teams that won one. So we're here to celebrate their victory and their hard work.
Thank you, Frank. Are you guys ready to go down there? Honor these kids?
Can I bring them up here?
Well, you're going to call them and, yeah.
Perfect. How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, we need to talk. So you want to come on over here?
Yeah.
And then you'll call their names and then and Christopher does his.
Okay, our first player. Okay. She's our forward, Everly Barnes. Bryce Versheldon. Sophia Coelho. Ella Stevenson. Callie Nunez. Addison Vacareza. Evie Ledbetter. Macy Allison, who couldn't make it tonight. Jasmine Drake. River Griswold. Aubrey Cifuentes. Evelyn Jones, who couldn't make it tonight. And Mackenzie Peoples.
So what we're going to do is, girls, you're going to go ahead, some of you move on over here, and we're going to take a big group picture. Come on in. I love the uniforms there. Wow. It's come a long way since 2017. That's for sure. Come on in. What is it? Well, wait around here and we'll get it. You'll talk to Colleen right there and we'll get it there. Let's all hold up the number 1 for Team OSC right here.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
you.
I'd really like to give a big shout out to the board and the parents and the players and of course all the coaches for the countless hours that you guys spend keeping this team alive and keeping the organization growing. So big thank you everyone. Thank you for your big benefit that you had this past weekend, Frank. And girls, keep going and who knows, maybe we'll see you here next year. Congratulations, Team OSC. You guys are welcome to stay for the whole meeting and join us.
Mayor,
Or you're welcome.
can you tap your mic? No, it's dead.
You're welcome to stay and join us for the whole meeting, or you're welcome to go ahead and get up and leave right now. It's up to you. Bye. Congratulations.
Now wait a minute, because we're gonna buy a leaf blower tonight. So are you sure you don't want to?
Can we check if the link is actually working? Because I know past couple of weeks I've gotten different complaints on it.
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Thank TubeView.
Somebody do that.
Good evening.
Just tap.
Good evening.
So, okay. So go ahead and speak into,
This one?
yeah,
This one.
why don't you use that one and they'll work on fixing the other one.
All right.
And we're checking that link.
Testing 1, 2. All right, so next item, reporting out of closed session. We will reconvene after this meeting. Next item is public comment. Anyone wishing to provide public comment, please come up to the mic. You have 3 minutes, and please state your name. Good evening.
My name is Alvin Lee at 885 Vista Verano Court here in Oakdale. But first, I'd like to thank Brian for his service. I really thank you. Community thanks you, and you will be missed. Okay, I'm here on behalf of myself and my neighbors. Oh, okay. I'm not the greatest speaker. All right, thank you. I'd like to discuss these feral cats that are on the river. I think Astoria takes care of them. I've been to the police department. They referred me to animal control. Animal control hasn't done anything. We went to the pound, asked them if they would accept these cats. They said no, because apparently they've been approved by the council. These feral cats are a nuisance. They're in our yard. They spray in my shop. They spray in Bonnie's garden. They defecate all over our yard, in our garden boxes. They decimated the bird population. You have no idea living next to a cat colony. I'm not for sure who approved it, but no one had discussed the neighbors and did an impact study on these feral cats. We've put up with the homeless and the trash, but now these cats are overwhelming. I invite all of you to go down there, walk along the river, and see all these cats. You'll probably see, if you really count them, you could probably count at least 100, 200, maybe 300. But be assured that whatever you count, the rest of them will be over in the neighborhood. Cats do not stay in one place. They roam. We drive up to our house, cats scatter in the front. There's cats everywhere. It's not right. And I know these people, I've talked to the people feeding these cats, but all these cats are poor. They gotta have a place. Cats are fine. As pets, people love their cats, but in the wild, in a colony like that, there is absolutely no reason for it. None. Okay, I'm sorry, my 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much, and I hope there is some response.
Do you
Mayor,
have a
if I could kind of comment
Yeah.
on that, I would recommend that we set up, I'd like to get more information on the current situation, because clearly, I mean, we'd like to work through that.
Can you give your contact information to Colleen, please? Can you leave your contact information with Colleen, and our city manager and probably chief of police will set up a meeting with you?
Yeah,
Right over
Mr.
here.
Lee, I don't have your phone number, so
Right
if you
here.
wouldn't mind leaving that, then we can get back to you.
Thank you. And thank you.
I thank you for listening.
Of course. Albert, want me to check that? There you go.
Use two of them.
There we go. Better?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? No one else for public comment. Public comment is now closed. All right, now's the time for city council consent agenda. Is there an item a council member would like to pull to discuss? If not, this is an action item.
There are a couple things I'd like to point out. 9.7, before we get the angry emails and phone calls, we're not creating a new position. We're not giving raises. It's just a title. It's just a technicality that we're changing the job titles in two positions. And 9.8, which is not on the consent agenda, should be the fact that Tom Hallinan has a birthday on Friday. So, Counselor Hannanen, I'd like to say happy birthday to you. And with
Happy
that,
birthday.
and with that, I
Oh, my
move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Kettering,
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Patassi, and Mayor Barrios.
Yes, this item passes 5-0. Thank you, Colleen. All right, staff reports. 11.1. Hi, Stanley. Good evening. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Be presenting tonight, kind of my first time solo.
I love it. I love
Bear
it.
with me.
Yes, yes. It's just us here, so you know, you're
Perfect.
comfortable with us.
Yes, absolutely.
Plus the thousands of people watching right now.
We believe.
Thank you,
in
Councilmember Smith. It's not on the right one.
It's not the right.
Yeah, it's not the right.
That's not our, this was.
Who's ever working the
Couple of
computer
weeks
must
ago.
be messing something up.
Brian sabotaging me.
Know any good stories?
There we go. Perfect. So,
Sorry about that.
no problem, Brian. Mayor, members of council, I bring to you tonight 11.1, consideration of a resolution authorizing a city manager to purchase one Harper Hawk turf sweeper from Turf Star Western in the amount of $54,187.50 from Parks Replacement Fund 549, one Toro Z Master 7500D zero-turn mower from Turf Star Western in the amount of $24,629.68 from Parks Replacement Fund 549. One Toro Workman GTX utility vehicle from Turf Star Western in the amount of $20,129.21 from Parks Replacement Fund 549. And one mower trailer from Johnson Manufacturing in the amount of $13,607.67, with a total cost of $112,554.06 from Parks Replacement Fund 549, and appropriate $3,000 from Parks Replacement Fund 549 reserves to cover the cost of the purchases. So, before we get started, when we went out to bid on this equipment, you know, we try to go out in July. So back when we went out in July, we put enough money in there to purchase the equipment. From July till now is where the $3,000 has came from. The increases in the equipment, things have gone up. So I just wanted to make that clear kind of right off the get-go so you guys had a good idea. Okay, so we'll start off with the zero-turn lawnmower. In our current workforce, we have several mowers, zero-turn mowers. They're all about 7 years old. The hours on them are 3,000 plus hours of usage. Roughly that equals out to about 18,000 miles on these mowers that they've gone. So they're really kind of starting to get beat down. Maintenance is becoming a nightmare on them. As most of you know, it's kind of fleet is my department, and these things, it seems like I'm seeing them more and more. We're trying to replace these in steps rather than purchase them all at once. Do one this year, maybe another one next year. We'll keep the better out of the two that we have to continue to use for this mowing season. The old unit that we will be replacing this one with is going to go out to the airport to be used out there, kind of just as a little bit to mow their grass areas that they have out there and keep that all maintained and looking clean. We'll use it until we can't use it no more out there, basically. The bid of $26,629.68 was provided by Turf Star Western via Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing. So everything that we do goes through Sourcewell. So we are getting the best pricing that we can get for government doing this. It's kind of skipping around. So the trailer that we're asking for, this last year we bought a Toro 5900 huge area mower. The problem is it didn't fit on the trailer, any of our trailers anymore. So we've been roading this thing from park to park, from our maintenance yards. It's a lot of extra wear and tear on the mower. We've kind of already gone through a set of tires just since we've been driving it on the road. It's not really designed for that. It's more designed to be driven on turf more than street. So the trailers, we kind of got two prices and decided that the Big Tex 140T-22 was going to be the better tilt trailer. That comes in at a cost of $13,667 or 67 cents. So the Toro Workman GTX utility vehicle. How many of you guys have seen our Gator that we have that they use for spraying weeds? It's seen better days. That thing it's pretty rough. They use it more now for spraying than they do anything else. What we're hoping to accomplish with getting this piece of equipment, by the way, this is an electric piece of equipment, no gas, this is electric. What we're hoping to accomplish with this piece of equipment is, we have TL Davis, we have the Gregor Sports Complex. We can't really drive utility trucks out there without causing ruts or making a mess. And, these guys have to haul equipment out there to work on sprinklers sometimes in the middle of the park. So we're wanting to purchase this to try to preserve the turf and not have problems by trying to fix problems, basically. And that was a bid of $20,129.21 provided by Turf Star, and that was via Sourcewell also. So the Harper Hawk Sweeper, we've had this, we kind of demoed it a little bit also. This will be used for removal of long plugs after aeration. I'm sure you guys have all seen, sometimes it doesn't look the greatest after we aerate. There will be a bunch of dead grass-looking chunks, plugs left on the grass. This will pick all that up. It's basically a sweeper, kind of like a street sweeper. Has bristle brushes underneath and two kicker brooms. It will clean it all up. It'll also be used for during the fall in the parks. It'll help to clean the leaves up in the parks rather than have to blow everything into the street to be picked up by our leaf machines. Definitely save some time. It's a substantial savings on this piece of equipment. New, it's $86,000. This piece of equipment particularly has about 200 hours on it. So I mean, very low usage for the price we're getting it for as a demo. I mean, $54,187.50 compared to the 86. Huge savings. And that, again, was through Sourcewell. So, does anybody have any questions? Because I feel like maybe if I'm missing something or...
I do. Did you guys happen to go to bid, like with Combs? We have Combs Equipment right here in Oakdale that sells Kubotas. Or Sourcewell is the only,
Sourcewell is kind of the only bids that we got on this. Normally, and I know we kind of have done things different, but normally Sourcewell, once we get to Sourcewell bids, that's kind of, most cities, that's the only bid that they'll get. Because Sourcewell is gonna give us the lowest, cheapest price that we can get.
Yeah, and Stan, could you talk about Sourcewell? Because I believe Sourcewell is basically a statewide
Yes.
resource where they've,
It's an
companies
aggregator.
have had the opportunity to bid, and this is the guaranteed lowest price for that type of equipment.
Yes.
and that hydraulic trailer, would that house also the other one that you said that we have, the other mower?
The mower, correct.
So
That-
both
that
mowers?
The trailer will house, the big mower is, for the majority, that's the reason we're getting that
Uh-huh.
bigger trailer. We looked at trying to modify one of our trailers and do certain things. Unfortunately, we're unable to do it. The trailer that we're looking at purchasing is a deck over trailer, so it doesn't have any fender wells. The deck completely goes out over the tires because the width on the mower is so wide.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Stanley?
For the electric gator, do you guys feel that the electric will be able to keep up with the wear and tear of what you guys will utilize it for, or?
I
Do you
believe,
have
I believe so, Councilman Patassi. In this situation, it's not that they always need it. It's kind of in the same situation with the Gator. When they need it, they need it.
Yeah.
And it's got to go. So as long as they're doing their due diligence, making sure that it's plugged in, which I'm going to be on them about, making sure that they're keeping the batteries charged, I definitely think it'll meet the expectations.
Will that be stored out at TL Davis, or will it be brought
No,
back?
sir, that'll be stored
Okay.
at our yard. Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just want to say, I can't speak for everybody here, but I know if you had come to this council needing the turf sweeper, and you got 3 bids, and the lowest bid was $86,000, we would have hemmed and hawed, but we would have probably approved that. So by saving an additional $30,000 by buying this gently used one, that's a big chunk of change that you just saved the city of Oakdale, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Staff recommends that the city council adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase one Harper Hawk turf sweeper from Turf Star Western in the amount of $54,187.50. From Parks Replacement Fund, 549, one Toro Z Master 7500D zero-turn mower from Turf Star Western in the amount of $24,629.68. From Parks Replacement Fund, 549, one Toro Workman GTX utility vehicle from Turf Star Western in the amount of $20,129.21. From the Parks Replacement Fund, 549, and one mower trailer from Johnson Manufacturing in the amount of $13,607.67. From Parks Replacement Fund, 549, and appropriate $3,000 from Parks Replacement Fund 549 reserves to cover the cost of the purchases.
One last question, if I may.
Yes.
I've been doing this for 6 years, and I don't think we've ever dipped into a reserve fund for the same fund. So can you educate me and anybody else the difference? What?
Yeah, if I may, in the final budget that was approved by the council there, for these purchases, we had budgeted $110,000. So the total amount came in above that, so we're asking for additional spending authority
Out of that fund.
and so just by way of background of what that fund is, so Fund 549 is the Park Replacement Fund. And we have been using that for a variety of park improvements over the years, Cottleswood, Fish Park, and we have a pretty robust plan that was adopted with the budget that includes improvements throughout the city for other parks to the tune of about $1.8 million this
So this
year.
$3,000 is going to take a big chunk of that 1.8 million.
Yeah, so the beginning fund balance at the beginning of this year is 2.4 million. we have planned 1.8 million in expenditures for a variety of things, like at Brennan Park. Part of it goes to the community sports fields that's under construction. We have Gilbert Park restrooms, and some other Valley View Park improvements, some placeholders. So after all of that is spent, we anticipate having $594,149 left after that.
So this is a healthy fund, and this $3,000 overrun is not going to cripple it at all.
That's correct.
Any questions from the public for Stanley? Any other questions from council?
I motion to approve item, Chair.
How often does that budget get replenished?
So that's a really good question in the sense that each year, as we close out the budget year, we go in, and if there are expenditures are less than the revenues, as part of that, we've assigned funds. So let's see, we transferred over the years. We try to do as much as we can each year. This last year, because of the fund balance being so high, we didn't do that. But as it starts to deplete, we will identify future needs. That's one of the things that I'm really proud of our staff and team is trying to identify, not just for this fund, but for our vehicle replacement, because when we purchase a vehicle, we know it doesn't have an infinite life, so we have to be preparing for that next purchase. And so we had a lot of deferred maintenance in our parks, and so the council has made, I think, some really prudent budgetary decisions to hold back funds. So it's dropping down to that 594 level. So next budget cycle, our goal is to help, add more funds to that. But it all kind of depends where the economy goes. We've been fortunate that we've been able to keep expenditures to a certain point, and it's below our revenues. Things are getting tighter. We've referenced in the past, we've seen pretty good growth in our sales tax. We're seeing that flatten, although we're experiencing some increased property tax revenue. So that's just something that we're in pretty good shape, but we don't have a designated amount every year because it depends what the costs are and the revenue stream that comes in with it. But great question.
Great.
All right.
I motion to approve item 11.1.
Second.
First and a second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gilbert? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Patassi?
Yes.
Councilmember Kettering?
Yes.
And Mayor Barrios?
Yes, this item passes 5-0. Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thanks for the presentation.
All right, 11.2.
Mayor Barrios, members of the City Council, this is a resolution authorizing the city manager enter into a one-year agreement with True Green LP for weed abatement services, and really it's turf management services, in the amount of $40,000 annually. This is to be funded by Park Maintenance Fund 110, LLMD Fund 284, and LLMD Vineyards 286. And each of those funds have a contract services line item, and that's where we plan to take these funds. So the city of Oakdale has approximately 150 acres of manageable or maintainable landscape, and most of it is turf. It's very difficult to divert staff to a proper turf maintenance program, such as what we're proposing with this, and really it's a chemical program. The chemicals that we're talking about is pre-emergent and post-emergent and fertilizing. It's something that we currently don't do as regularly as we would like to. We know the demands on the parks are very high. We want to make them the best that we can make them, and one way to do that is to have a proper chemical plan for our turf in our parks. So one way to do that is to reach out to a professional who does that for a living, and True Green is a company that does that. There are some landscape companies that will use pre and post emergence, but not at the level, not necessarily at the level that we need with all our turf areas. I suspect at some point in time in the near future, or not too distant future, that we would maybe look at, and it's a study that we're gonna have to do internally, but look at maybe having a full-time person as a spray technician, which is not unusual for cities. We're not there yet, but I think we're getting very close. That includes somebody who has a certification from the state to apply those chemicals. There are reporting requirements, monthly reporting requirements that are involved, and this company would do this as well. But just getting back to, in the future, this is something that we'd like to look at and possibly for the council to take into consideration to employ somebody who would do this full-time, if this is successful. So the one-year contract that we're talking about, we wanna see how this works. We wanna see how well it performs. And we're asking council to consider a one-year contract with True Green to provide this chemical turf maintenance program. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Gravel?
This is a one-year term with options for 2 additional years, 3
Correct.
additional years at the same price?
Yes,
So this is a fiscal impact that we didn't pay last year.
that's correct.
So hiring a new person, could we hire a new person for this amount of money?
No,
Probably not.
but there's another side of our chemical application, and that's for weed abatement and rodent control. We have an existing contract in place that we have, and they perform services for purely weed abatement and rodent control. It's under the same license. In other words, you get a certification from the state, and the state allows that type of treatment and use of chemical. I suspect at some point in time, if we were to merge those 2 tasks together, it may equate to a full-time position with,
But then you'd still probably need an additional person to do all the reporting.
depending on the amount of time that it takes for the reporting. I've done that in the past in previous careers.
Okay.
It's not that time-consuming. It's once a month. You just have to log the amount of chemical and what the chemical is used during that month.
So
But
do you believe that this is a more efficient use of our time and money?
at this time, yes.
Contractor, yeah.
Quick question. I think I used up all my questions via email before the meeting, but is this just for the parks?
Yes.
Or, okay, it does not include any of the other property and, go ahead,
Parks and the LMD parkway strips.
okay, that was my question. I
Yes.
thought that's what I read, but I wasn't absolutely sure. It does include the
Yes.
parkway strips. Okay, thank you.
That was one of my 2 questions, was it's gonna be for the parks and most strips in front of houses.
Correct.
Along the city. My second question, the chemicals that they're gonna be using, is there any health or potential health hazards to kids and animals, et cetera, associated with it by chance? Like will residents be notified like, hey, if this chemical's sprayed, stay off of it for X amount of time, or is there anything? Because with stuff you buy at the store, Raid or not Raid, what's the weed killer?
Roundup.
Roundup. They say on the box, hey, stay off of it for X amount of hours till it dries.
Yeah.
So animals don't get it in their mouth and bring it in the house, or kids, all that kind of stuff. Is that?
Yeah, it's usually, like in the case with Roundup, it's a 30-minute timeline to stay off. It's water soluble, so it's very concentrate. It's and broke down by water. In the spray mix. The chemical, the post-emergent and pre-emergent, we wouldn't be, and the contractor wouldn't use a material that would be hazardous in any way on the turf. I'm not familiar with there being a timeline on how long to stay off the turf area. But I know in the case with Roundup, I believe it's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But in this case, they won't be using Roundup.
Yeah.
It's either going to be pre or post-emergent or fertilizer.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we're currently spraying, we're currently doing part of these services, aren't we?
Part of these services,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. And we don't
Yeah.
close the parks when we spray ourselves.
No.
And one of the things that would have to happen, And one of the benefits currently with going with a contractor is they have all the appropriate licenses to apply the chemicals. The state is pretty strict. They wouldn't allow us just to go out and spray Roundup everywhere
Yeah.
for the reasons that you stated. So, yeah, we're confident that we're following all the state guidelines to keep things safe.
Any questions from the public for Mr. Gravel? All right.
I motion to approve item 11.2.
I'll second that.
First and a second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Patassi?
Yes.
Councilmember Kettering?
Yes.
And Mayor Barrios?
Yes, this item passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, 11.3.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight for your consideration is adopting a policy for special events, application submittal requirements for Oakdale downtown area that include a street or parking lot closure. Special events play a vital role in the social and economic vibrancy of downtown Oakdale. However, events requiring streets or parking lot closures can change the normal flow of residential and business activity, potentially causing an impact to the area. The proposed policy outlines a step-by-step process for applicants requiring them to submit detailed event plans, secure business resident consent for street and parking lot closures, and adhere to notification requirements. These measures aim to enhance communication, improve event logistics, and provide city staff with adequate time for review of the application. So in this map here, for the proposed application requirements would apply to special events that include the street or parking lot closure in the orange highlighted area of downtown. So if you'll see, that includes North First Avenue, North Second Avenue, and North Third Avenue between F and E Street, and then E Street from First to Yosemite, and then also the adjacent parking lots in the area. Some of the key components of the step-by-step application requirement process include at least 90 days prior to the event, the applicant submits a complete special event application to the city, including all event details, event map, and payment of applicable application fees. At least 60 days prior to the event, city staff provides the applicant with a street parking lot closure petition packet. The packet will include the details that were submitted in the application, an event map, and then a list of addresses that they need to obtain signatures from. They will still apply to the 2/3 requirement as they do for normal special events. We're hoping that this process will help the businesses and tenants in the downtown area kind of see more of the event besides just a piece of paper from the person that's hosting the event saying, hey, can we close this? Are you okay with us closing the street? So we're hoping this just provides more information and transparency about what's gonna go on. At least 45 days prior to the event, the applicant submits the completed petition packet with the required signatures to the city clerk's office. And then at least 30 days prior to the event, city staff issues the final permits and conditions of approval. Events involving amplified sound or co-sponsorship will require city council approval, so we won't be able to issue the permit until the city council approves that. And then at least 14 days prior to the event, applicant distributes a flyer notifying all businesses and residents within the closure area of the event. So we're hoping this shares more information because some, if you only need the 2/3, some businesses and tenants aren't receiving notification of the event. So they would just need to distribute a flyer of those event details.
So is this for first, second, there's gonna be an event downtown, first, second, or third street in that area. The 2/3 is gonna be within that whole area?
Within the street closure area.
Okay, so let's give an example of what's happened in the past, like a certain event, like a Christmas parade, morning market, what is it?
Morning market. So the only difference from what really happens in the current application process is that I give them a packet to distribute to the businesses. And they do have to need, right now we have the 30-day requirement. They
Yeah.
need to submit it 90 days in advance.
Yes.
And then I give them the list. So for example, if we want to just use Downtown Christmas
Yeah.
for that event, if
Yeah.
it's going to remain as the same boundaries, they give me the map of where they want the boundaries
Mm-hmm.
of the event. So that's usually 3rd Avenue from F, and then it goes to, let's see, it goes down to right by City Hall, and then E Street,
Mhm.
and then they, I can't remember if they did Second. Did they do
Not-
Second?
not this
No,
year.
they didn't.
No.
They didn't do Second. So then we have, so they would just have 2/3 of that road closure area or parking lot closure area. So if everybody was to combine a Christmas event, say it's on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, then it would be that whole area. Or if it was for the morning market, there on North 3rd from E to F, it's within that road closure area.
So the 90-day thing.
Yes.
So obvious, God bless you. If you're having an event and it's 11th, 12th, 14th annual event, you know you're having it every year.
Right.
So what we're saying here is we're actually putting it in writing, so we're all on the same page, so that we get it. If it's let's just go with a Christmas event or Christmas parade, that goes out 90 days ahead of time.
They need to
Pers-
submit their application
So
90 days.
the person having the event, I'll just use myself, Christmas parade, has that, it's 90 days. We normally get in, of course, very early, but that's 90 days. Give it to city staff looks at it and says, okay, here's what you need to get, and here's where you need to get the signatures, here's your map.
Right.
We take it door to door to door to door, get their signatures, bring it back to you within 60 days?
Prior to 60 days,
Pri-
60 days prior to the event.
60 days prior to the event, so let's go October 1st. October 1st, we bring it back to you. We have the 2/3 of the signatures, then 45 days,
October 15th.
let me see, 45 days prior to the event, applicant submits a petition. That comes here, then it goes to city council 30 days ahead.
It only goes to city council if it's a co-sponsored event. If
Okay,
it's not a co-sponsored event,
meaning the applicant doesn't pay the fees, so the
if it's
200,
if it's a nonprofit,
Yeah.
then they
the fees are waived, the $245 or
correct,
whatever.
correct,
And if not, it's like you and I have discussed before, where city staff approves that.
right.
What would we consider amplified sound?
Like a concert in the park,
Yeah, any
an
kind of like
artist that's-
concert,
yeah.
I mean, if you had somebody sitting, I know some of the events have included somebody just kind of sitting on the corner, but it would be more kind of live music, like the mayor said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Concerts in the park, or if it was some type of,
Thank you for
Live
clarifying.
music.
So if they don't get 2/3 approval from surrounding,
then
like, the
they
event
can't move
happen
forward
at
with
all?
the event.
And will they get their fees refunded from?
Yes.
Okay. So.
Can I,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. What brought about this new policy? What sparked this for?
Yeah,
Just
I
curious.
mean, Colleen, if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
I'll, going to our downtown merchants meetings and hearing feedback from some of our downtown vendors, the way the process worked before is they would get their 2/3 signature, but the city didn't see what was presented to the people. Like, there was no map. So I could just go with my sign-up sheet, oh, hey, we're doing a downtown event, it's gonna be great, we're gonna close off this area, here, please sign. And so they're, oh, okay, great. But since we've been having more events, before we didn't have that many events, so it wasn't that big a deal. Because it's becoming more regular, some of the vendors were like, well, wait a second, not only did I not get the sign, so they're not even aware, and the groups know who's going to approve it and who's not. So they weren't even going
So
to
they-
the votes that,
They don't even go to the other ones?
they don't even go to the people that would vote no, so they're not even made aware of the event until it just shows up. So that's why we added the 14 days prior to the event, the applicant has to distribute a flyer saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. They may have wanted to vote no on it, but at least they can't be surprised that, hey, in 2 weeks, you're gonna have some road closures and some other things. And it's also a staffing issue. The 30 days, it's pretty tight for us to route it to police, fire, and other stuff, and we're really, these individuals and organizations are counting on the approval, but we all have to make sure they're safe. And so, as we passed out this process to at least all the businesses on Third and asked, hey, do you have any comments, any feedback, any changes? And we received none on that. The main difference is they're just gonna have to plan ahead, right? I mean, we have some individuals that will have to reach out again. It's like, you can't wait, because we've been pretty lenient. It's 30 days, but I'm like, we're not gonna cancel Christmas, right? I mean, this is not this last year, but in years previous.
Yeah.
You know, I give kudos to the mayor. The mayor was browbeating folks like, get it in, we can't be, we gotta be on time. So that's not related to that. But anyway, there's gonna be some education needed, but I think this is a more transparent process, because the city will get to say, hey, we approve this map, and this is what you need to show to the people you're getting the votes from.
So bottom line, the 14 days, so 2/3 sign it, 14 days prior to the event, person X goes around and hands it to everybody within that area. Person 1 over here says, I don't want this. It doesn't really matter, because 2/3 have already approved that. You don't think at least 30 days for them to hand that out, to give these business owners a heads up? Maybe they already have something going on at their store, that parking might be of an issue, or do you think
I mean,
14 days is fair?
Well, we try to just work it back, because if it's,
Yeah.
if it's 30 days, you almost have to push it. Now it's not 90, it's 100 and something, and so we just work backwards from that amount. And I think in some ways, we made sure to distribute this to those who've had issues with the past policy, and they seem to be okay with the 14 days. They just didn't like the 2-hour notice.
Right.
Like, hey,
Yeah, and we've heard enough from the business owners down there that
yeah.
I'm glad to see this,
Yeah,
that we're putting a plan in place.
And I want to give kudos to Colleen, who was the brainchild of coming up with all this, so well done. It was, she just did a marvelous job. I mean, the fact that they didn't really have many comments, because there was a lot of opinions.
Yeah. So this
about
is parking lot closure and street closures?
Correct.
So each entity, right now, there's 3 entities that have events on that first Saturday of December. So each entity will have to go through the same the 2/3 signature
Right, correct.
for their little part? Like
Yes.
our little part's Christmas parade, it's not really.
Right. And that part doesn't necessarily, the 2/3,
Yeah,
that's really the same across the board and what we've been doing previously.
so we already have
It's
that.
more
yeah.
so of setting those deadlines and giving them that petition packet that has more details and information to share with those people, rather than just a piece of paper.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yes.
So if we approve this policy tonight, it takes place tomorrow?
It will take place tomorrow. I did talk to Brian, and we will let some of the common people who do annual events and let them know. And, you know, if there is.
Here's, I'm gonna jump right in.
Sure.
Today is the 18th of February. 90 days from now is the 18th of May. The morning market starts on the 3rd of May.
So I had already reached out to Lisa and spoke with her ahead of time. It was when we gave her a heads up, and she actually submitted her application as if she was abiding by this policy. So she's already started the process. I've already given her the petition packet, so we're
Nice job.
on track with that.
Yeah.
She was fine with the
This
policy.
is great.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Colleen?
Brian answered this question to me, and I think this was important, is with fees included in this, that my question is you have organizations that have multiple days. Are they gonna have to submit multiple applications for one event that goes throughout the entire summer? And it was already related to me that no, it's one application process for their entire event every Saturday throughout the summer.
Correct.
And these people that have these type of events, they do pay per vendor once it's all over. Is that
The
correct?
$20 business license fee applies per vendor.
Yeah, but as related to the application fee, it's just a one-time. But the
Yeah.
mayor's correct that because of those businesses are there each Saturday, they have to pay for each time.
Okay, any questions from the public for Colleen? All righty.
Thank you for such a thorough program.
Thank you.
I motion to approve item 11.3.
Second?
First and a second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Patassi,
Yes.
Councilmember Kettering,
Yes.
and Mayor Barrios.
Yes. This item passes 5-0. Thank you, Colleen, for that. All right, Patrick Mondragon, next item. 11.4.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, City staff. I'm actually really excited to present this item this evening. I think it's something that's really much needed for us in the City of Oakdale to adopt, and we're excited for this. And so the item before you is to consider a resolution that would approve the Code Enforcement Officer Safety Standards Policy. And just by way of background, there was a Senate bill that was enacted. It's Senate Bill 296. And Senate Bill 296, what it does is it requires each and every local jurisdiction that employs code enforcement officers to do two things. One of them is to evaluate the risk, the threats, and the hazards that are applicable to code enforcement officers. And then the second thing is to develop a code enforcement officer safety standards. And so that's what this item is here. And this led to the City of Oakdale Code Enforcement Officer Safety Standards Policy, which is actually tailored to meet our needs and address the concerns of our community and local jurisdiction. So the role of code enforcement officers serve a vital role in protecting and improving communities throughout California. They are charged with enforcing a wide array of state and local laws found in municipal codes and county codes of every jurisdiction in California. They range from your straightforward lawn maintenance, yard maintenance issues to extremely dangerous and complex substandard housing and building issues, enforcing laws relating to illegal cannabis, insect and rodent infestations, and land use and parking enforcement. Adding to these duties, code enforcement officers in California increasingly are being tasked with community quality of life and safety duties that can sometimes put them at risk. As a result, code enforcement officers can face heightened physical threats as well as health risks. So by definition, code enforcement officers put themselves in dangerous situations dealing with problem issues such as mold and lead abatement, environmental hazards, and discharges, and seeking compliance from sometimes hostile violators, some of whom can have criminal histories. According to data from 2015 to 2021, 141 safety incidents involving code enforcement officers were reported. Fortunately, none of these were for the City of Oakdale. By law, code enforcement officers are not peace officers. They're not police officers. They're not sworn officers. However, they still need reasonable protections to do their jobs. And I would just like to take this opportunity to say that our City of Oakdale Police Department does an outstanding job of supporting our code enforcement. The two are one, they work so well together, and whenever our code enforcement team feels that they're gonna go to a house that might be a problem area or a threat, they always go to the police and request a police escort, and they're always more than willing to provide that for us. So as far as officer safety, we have no problems there. That being said, I think we all know that, you never know what a routine situation or what you think would be a routine situation can turn into. To comply with the law, which is the Senate bill, all agencies are tasked with adopting standards, and in doing so, they have to undergo a two-part process that I was mentioning. One was to evaluate any potential threats, and then two was to develop standards that are appropriate to mitigate those threats. So this is what we're doing. Some of the notable changes that, that we look to make in doing this when we went through this thorough process of looking at not only the city of Oakdale, our local community, but also our code enforcement officer safety, is we wanted to take a proactive approach to this and not just make it a check in the box to adopt a policy, but also look at real practical ways that we can protect our code enforcement officers. And also in doing that, we looked at some things that other local jurisdictions are doing as well that we thought would be a great idea to implement. Some of those notable changes include self-defense. And when I say self-defense, as part of this category, our plan is to issue our code enforcement officer pepper spray to carry when operating out in the field. This is something that every postal carrier carries pepper spray. Prior to be issuing that pepper spray, the code enforcement officer must attend a pepper spray training, which is a certification course, in which they will receive a permit to carry. The second one is radio communications. Now with cell phones, I mean, it doesn't take long to call somebody and to dial up, but we would like to increase that by use of radio communications. Chief Ramar with our Oakdale Police Department was more than gracious and said that the police department would be willing to furnish us with a radio that our code enforcement officer would have access to, where they could immediately contact somebody within the police department to get an escort or response if what they thought was going to be a routine situation turned out to be otherwise. And initial training will be provided for that as well. And then the last category on there is protective equipment. This is something that we don't really utilize right now, but there has been a few situations, and our code enforcement officer, Diana Guerrero Garcia, is here today, and she's just gonna say a few things at the end. She has a slide to show some stats of situations that she's encountered. And she has encountered some kind of hairy situations with blight, with hoarder houses, with mold, with feces, human feces, animal feces. I mean, she's had her share of, she's definitely had her fair share of action cases that she's responded to. And so for the protective equipment, a few of the things that we would like to do is have a kit that would, a bag that she would be able to carry with her in her truck everywhere she goes, and she'll have it available if she needs it. And that kit will contain, amongst other things, respiratory protective gear, including a mask, a coverall suit to wear if needed, and shoe covers as well, in case she ends up going into houses that you don't really want to step in with your regular shoes. So that's pretty much the gist of that. Things that are included in the Code Enforcement Officer Safety Standards manual that's included in the packet. It covers everything from officer safety, it covers alertness, reporting requirements, communications, protective equipment that we discussed, ongoing training, which is where we'll always assess any kind of needs to see if we need to add additional things, and then record keeping as well. And at this time, if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce our code enforcement officer. She's also code enforcement officer / water conservation, Diana Guerrero Garcia, to just spend a few moments speaking to a few of the things that she's kind of gotten into, I guess you could say, since she's been our code enforcement officer.
Thank
Diana?
you, Patrick. Ooh. Good evening.
I didn't know I had to say anything. Well, good evening. As most of you know and have worked with me on some of these cases, I know Christopher Smith has actually...
I have cleaned up my house since that.
Yeah. So I brought this to Patrick's attention, and I said, I went to my code conference, and safety's a big issue. Some of the meetings that we went to, the officers were talking about getting cornered in a business establishment and not being able to leave the room, or going into a hoarding house and not having the proper equipment. So these are things that we don't really think about when we're out there. I know that one of the houses that Christopher Smith was able to work with me on, you couldn't even go into the home. The Tyvek suit is definitely something needed. The booties when you walk in. I mean, I have my safety boots at my desk, and I clean them off after every use. But you don't want to bring these things home. You have rodent, bugs, all kinds of yucky stuff. I've assisted with at least 10 hoarding homes, and that's what they look like. Most of them are rehabilitated now. We've arranged for 3 separate abatements, and our police department has been amazing in helping. Anytime I need them, I can just call, and they will have an officer to assist. So that I never have had an issue with. The abatements are a legal process that we go through, and then we remove whatever nuisance is at the property. The dangerous building is one that we're still working on. So multi-agency cases, we've been able to work with Stanislaus County Hazardous Materials for a meth lab that was seized in a home. Veteran Services, APS, CPS, and these are all agencies that come prepared. They have their little war bag in their cars, and I think we're not as prepared as we should be. So this is something huge, and I appreciate your guys' support with it. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Diana?
I really appreciate you bringing back everything you have learned at your conferences and trying to apply them to the city. That just shows your leadership, and thank you for that, Diana.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
With the additional stuff you guys will be getting with this, will you still have the officer
Assist?
option, assist?
Absolutely,
So
yeah. That's
you're
the
not just
first-
relying on yourself now that you've got pepper spray and
No.
radios, like, you're still gonna have that.
No, when I get a case that I'm not too sure about, I reach out to our police department and I ask for anything that I should be worried about. So I will get copies of police reports, or I'll ask them, should I go alone? Do you guys have somebody to assist? 90% of the time, no, we'll go with you. Most of the time, I haven't had any issues. I've had one encounter with a resident that we actually did the abatement, and there was 4 officers present, and the homeowner came out and started yelling and threatening. I mean, that's the only time that I've felt uncomfortable or unsafe, but PD was with me.
Let me just take 30 seconds to acknowledge what an incredible job that you actually do,
Thank you.
and that the people in this town know what a great job that you do.
Thank you.
Because there are different kinds of code enforcement officers, and you are a unique community service code enforcement officer. And
I
think we all
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick, this is absolutely needed. I mean, I started my career working in probation where we had a badge and a handcuffs and our smile, and that was it. And now you see probation driving around looking like SWAT team members. So I've seen the progression from positions that require safety, and this is absolutely needed in my opinion. My question is, it sounds like there's going to be needed a lot of equipment. I asked this question yesterday, and I don't know if the answer to me jives with what I'm seeing today. Is the agenda item shows no fiscal impact. With what I'm seeing today with the bag that needs to be bought, pepper spray, training for pepper spray, those all have costs associated with them. Definitely a necessity, and I don't think this changes my opinion one bit, but I'm still concerned that the item shows no fiscal impact when, based on what I'm seeing today, there is going to be some type of fiscal impact to the city.
I can't imagine that this bag would be more than $1,000.
Actually, I think we did a cost analysis, right?
Will the police department be training you guys in the pepper spray, or do you have to go like outside?
There's a online certification course that you can take that you have to, there's a time requirement, you have to pass a test, and then after you do that, then you get a certificate for that. So, and Councilmember Kettering, you make a great point about some of the costs associated with that. The reason why we listed no fiscal impact is because the costs are minimal, and none of them will be outside of the normal operating budget that's already contained in the line of accounting for the code enforcement. We did some research on some of the equipment Public Services already has on hand, such as the goggles and the mask, gloves. The certification course is $40, and then the pepper spray you can get for $30 or less for that. And so we don't anticipating this being any more than a couple $100 to get the initial equipment and supplies that we need.
One of the biggest costs that I can see is, if I heard correctly, is the police department will be providing a radio. those are expensive. So if it's an additional radio, that's gonna be a cost to somebody, whether it's the police department or another agency, if it's an additional radio that's there.
Is it a spare radio that you have already? Purchase a new one?
So, Councilmember, thank you for bringing that point. I think there are additional costs associated with this that probably exceed what's been described, mainly the radio, because we did order that. So that's something that, what would that cost me? It's about $3,000.
All right. Any other questions? Any questions from the public?
I motion to approve item 11-4.
Second.
First and a second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Yes.
Councilmember Patassi?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Kettering?
Yes.
And Mayor Barrios?
Yes, this item passes 5-0. And Diana, thank you for all that you do.
And
Awesome.
hopefully you don't use more than one pepper spray bottle a year.
All right. Item 11.5.
Yes, Mayor Barrios, members of the City Council. This is consideration of a resolution authorizing the city manager execute a capital facilities fee and plan area fee reimbursement agreement with Tesoro Homes, Inc. And this is all related to the F Street corridor specific plan area. I'm sure you all aware of this location. This is where the hotel is going to be located, kind of in this area. The specific plan area is a combination of residential and commercial development. And what this reimbursement agreement does is it basically pays back the developer who installed the infrastructure that is currently serving that specific plan area. So, as an example, D Street was installed. D Street was installed as a condition of approval for Tesoro 2. Tesoro 2 is, or Tesoro Estates. And those improvements that were included in D Street, because the developer installed them, will be enjoyed by other developments that occur within the area. So as a result, there was a finance plan that was prepared. The finance plan outlines all of the infrastructure costs associated with D Street. And as a result of that analysis, a fee is established. That fee is, as a matter of fact, I believe 6 months ago, we made an adjustment in the plan area fee for council consideration, and it was increased, subject to CPI increases over the years to its origination, from its origination. So the plan area fee is a result of a finance plan which studies the infrastructure costs in D Street. And the idea is that plan area fee is to reimburse those costs of improvements that are installed by that first developer. There's also there's a capital facilities fee that is currently throughout the city. Every resident or every new residential unit upon issuance or building permit issuance pays a capital facilities fee. And it's broke down in a variety of categories, such as sewer and water and streets and police and fire. And some of those capital facilities fees are also, or are to be used for reimbursement of the installation of these improvements in D Street. And so what we're requesting tonight is a reimbursement to use those fees that have been collected as a result of residential development in this area, and reimburse the cost of D Street improvements back to the developer. So that he can recover those costs and they can be enjoyed by future developments that come into the area. As future development occurs, they will be paying these fees, and that's what replenishes the reimbursement of the costs for D Street.
Who's the developer and how much is it they're getting reimbursed?
So the developer right now is Tesoro Homes, Inc. They are the ones that, and he's here if we have any further questions, but they are the ones that did the initial installation of the improvements in D Street, including curb gutter sidewalk and pavement of D Street, and landscaping. And if you can imagine, that installation was not necessarily or directly, other than being a condition of approval of Tesoro Estates, but those improvements will be enjoyed of surrounding areas of development. Whether it be this developer or other developers, they'll pay into this fee or pay into the infrastructure costs through these through the plan area fee and CFF or capital facilities fee.
So that,
to ultimately reimburse the cost of the infrastructure.
it'd be that 2,741,000 will be paid back to them?
Yeah, so actually, this is an old exhibit in the staff report. It has the accurate figures, which is a total of 2.8, so $2,856,246.60. And so it's divided up among a certain percentage related to the capital facility fee and the PAF fee. So 35% or $999,000 will come from the CFF, and 1.8 million or 65% will come from the PAF. And so there will be action. I mean, before this was totally finalized, the developer, Rich DePonte, was paying the fee, right? Before we finished the finance plan and how all the costs would be split up, for every home that was built, they would pay the fee. So there will actually be, some cash reimbursement for the fees that they have paid will go back to go against the cost. So over time, if we go back to this, you'll see the different lots. Each home going forward that he builds, he'll get a credit for, so he won't have to pay that fee until it lowers the value. And then if that isn't enough, then as other properties are developed, when they pay the fee, it'll go to him as well.
So they basically want to be reimbursed for the cost of doing business?
Yeah, so they spent significant funds to create infrastructure that benefited their development, but also other property owners. And so this is a practice that the city has done previously. So for example, developers are still paying back the developer that put in West F Street from Crane Road to the end of Vineyards. So they spent tens of millions of dollars on that. So the new homes that are going to go on Crane Road and West F, they've asked us, hey, how much do we have to pay those folks back? So the same thing applies.
So they've already made their money, though, on their development and their projects? And
I don't know what that, I mean, they have spent the money, and they're hoping to recoup. Developers should pay their fair share costs, and other landowners should pay their fair share costs. And so that's what this does. So if you look at what's developed, and then what's going to be developed, all of those, for example, in this Tesoro, I don't know, is that Tesoro 5? Over here, this is to be developed. They're benefiting from this access, because none of this would be possible except for this road was pushed through. And so someone had to be first. And so those who were first expect to be paid back for the share that benefits others as well.
what happens to that money if we don't reimburse them? If we don't
Well,
vote to
they've already paid it, so they've paid for this,
Yeah.
and so it's not necessarily money that we have.
Mm-hmm.
They paid their contractors to do all the work, and so they're just saying, hey, over time, or per this agreement, we just want to be paid back.
It's just a process of it.
Right.
Yeah, and this was a pre-agreement.
Oh, yeah.
Right? This is not something that came up last week. This is.
Yeah, and I would say in some ways, there's multiple ways you can do this. Some developers will just issue bonds and put it on the house. Some of our neighborhoods have that already, a CFD. that you pay. I mean, Bridal Ridge is one example of that. The Vineyards, I think, have that. This is a different one, so,
This guy invested in Oakdale,
right.
and so he put money into the bucket. I mean, Mr. Whitemeyer and I had a conversation about this already. So this guy put the money into the bucket, and now we're taking the money out of the bucket and paying him back for the services for the infrastructure that he built.
That's correct. And so this does not affect the general operating funds of the city. These are totally separate buckets of funds that are only intended, because in Exhibit C of the staff report, it breaks down what elements the cost went to. So for example, 2.2 million of it were spent on streets, 265,000 for water, the water line, 131,000 for the sewer line, 211,000 for the storm drainage systems, and then that's where we get the total of 2.8 overall.
So
But
those,
they've been paid for that, right? It's not like it's not an outstanding balance that they're still,
No, this is, that's a really good question. So here's what I would describe. The project, to build their homes, there were conditions of approval. And they said, you shall build this road. You know, we have to have circulation, we have to be able to get police and fire there.
Yeah.
So they paid it. So they have a direct contract with whatever contractor, George Reed, whoever they're using. So they've paid that amount of money, not to the city or anyone else, but to build the infrastructure.
in order to get their project approved.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Have they been awarded other projects already to continue building and developing that, or is that still?
that's in the works.
Well, but it depends, because this developer owns some property, but they also, other people are buying property. So this agreement basically sets the stage, so if property changes hands, that everyone knows what the costs will be when they buy that and to build homes. I don't know if I'm understanding your question.
You got it.
Okay.
Anyone else have questions for city manager? Anyone from the public have a question? All right.
I motion to approve item 11.5.
Second that?
First and a second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Patassi,
No.
Councilmember Kettering,
Yes.
and Mayor Barrios.
Yes, this item passes 4-1. Thank you, Colleen. Next item, 12.1.
Okay, we have the city manager report, or the department reports. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I just wanted to add a couple of comments. First, you know, it's already been stated, kudos to code enforcement. I think we have one of the most sophisticated code enforcement, operations in all of the county. I've worked at 5 different cities, and the things that Diana and Patrick are doing, with help of Civica is pretty significant. It's one thing that, hey, we got them to cut their weeds, but the number of homes that they've had significant improvements, the creativity and just reaching out, getting Habitat Humanity to buy a home that has been just crazy problematic to a neighborhood. We had that meth lab. We just got a report back that it's been rehabilitated and is now it's habitable, right? And it was a big whenever you have a meth lab in the building, there's significant efforts that need to take place to make sure all the contaminants are out. So working with Civica, code enforcement, Tom Hallinan, our city attorney, it's a pretty cool effort. And in addition to that, we've been able to recoup the funds that we've spent through the receivership process. And so we have more on the way, but this is a big deal. It's very complicated to deal with these hoarder homes. And so one of the things that I like, there's many things I like about Patrick and Diana, but one of the cool things about them is they're super empathetic. They're extremely customer service oriented, and they take it personally, like, how are we going to help this neighborhood? And even the people that are in those homes, in some cases, they have some health issues or dementia, and how can we get them the help? So it's not just rip them out of the homes and get it fixed. It's a very comprehensive situation. And one of the things that I wanted to add, I appreciated Councilmember Kettering's comment about the fiscal impacts. And I will admit, I missed that with the staff report because there are additional costs. But what I would like to point out is that one of the reasons why we kind of missed that is because of the willingness of the police department to be supportive. And so I can see how we missed that. They said, oh, well, we'll use some of our funds to pay for the radio, but we need to be transparent. It's real, right? You can't just keep adding these pieces of equipment. It doesn't have additional costs. So thank you for pointing that out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but that's all I have.
Anyone have questions?
No, but there's some pretty cool overhead pictures of the sports park in the end of the packet, page 172 and 173. Check them out. It's coming
Any
along.
council member have any questions?
Albert, I'm a month late, but congratulations on your 21-year anniversary with the city. We really appreciate everything and value your hard work every day. 21 years, that's a long time. Thank you.
Congratulations, Albert. Anyone else? Anything? All right, February 28th, the Oakdale Chamber Annual Awards Dinner, oakdalecachamber.org for tickets. We are going to have our next meeting on Monday, March 3rd, and I believe our city manager, that will be your last meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So with that, we just reconvene back here. Is that what we do? And everyone have a great evening.